We are delighted to welcome Sir Stephen Hough to KMFA today. He is well known to classical music fans primarily as a virtuoso pianist. He's also been named one of 20 living polymaths by The Economist. He is a visual artist, an author, and a composer who he was granted a knighthood for his services to music in the year 2022. And first of all, welcome and thank you so much for being here, Stephen.
My pleasure. It's a great pleasure for me.
So you are here in Austin performing with ATX Chamber Music and Jazz, 2 concerts and 2 different programs on top of it. And so on Friday evening, you are playing a solo recital with music by Chaminade, Liszt, Chopin, and one of your own pieces. It's called Sonatina Nostalgica.
Yes.
And this piece has deep roots in your own life. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, well, it's nostalgica in a number of different ways. It was written as a commission for my old high school, Cheetham School of Music in Manchester. And they wanted to honor Philip Folk, who's a British pianist, for his 70th birthday. So they said, would you write something for him? So I wrote in this little sonatina. So that's already nostalgic. Philip I've known since I was a child, really, because we had the same teacher. Then it's nostalgic because it is about the village of Lymm in Cheshire. It's a tiny little village. And so the 3 different movements, tiny little movements, are all places in Lymm. And then because Philip introduced me to a lot of music by the English Romantic composers, so John Ireland, York Bowen, Arthur Bliss, there are many in that sort of early part of the 20th century. So I wanted to use a musical language that he would recognize and smile when he heard a certain turn of harmony. So the piece has that nostalgia as well attached to it. But as I say, it's very short. It's just 5 minutes, 3 movements.
It's like you're guiding us around your home turf. It's such a
Exactly,
lovely word.
yes. I'm saying, come on, this is the road, and here's the dam, the bridge by the dam, which is the second movement. The dam is like a lake in Lymm. It's very small, and certainly in comparison to American lakes, it's probably the size of this room. But it's very beautiful, and I had a bench put there in memory of my parents, because they both had connections to Lymm. And so you can sit on the bench and look out over the lake, and that's the second movement. And then there's also the cross, which is the center of the village. It's actually not a cross as such. It's a sort of sandstone monument. I guess it must be 800 years old or maybe even more. And it's somewhere where kids play and they climb up and down. And in the Christmas time, people sing carols around it. So it's a very warm-hearted center of the village, very much part of the community of that place. So that movement is meant to depict that celebration.
So that is Saturday. Your string quartet is on the program along with Brahms's piano quintet in F minor. And the subtitle of your quartet is Les Six Rencontres. And it is a nod to a group of composers that was working in Paris around 1920. So what was the inspiration regarding them for this string quartet?
Well, there's quite a story behind this in a way. I was asked by the Takacs Quartet if I would like to write them a piece for an album they were releasing. They were recording the Ravel and the Duthier string quartets. So, I mean, that's a tall order, because those are perhaps the 2 greatest 20th century quartets, or certainly greatest French 20th century quartets. So I thought, well, what do I do? And then I started thinking about this. So Ravel is 1905, Duthier 1970. And I thought, well, what's between these 2? Where do they join? What isn't there? Well, what neither of them have is humor, in the sense of funniness. Ravel, I can't think of an example in his music of humor, really. I mean, he's a composer I adore, and also Duthier, I don't know, maybe someone will write it and say, well, what about bar 35 in this piece? So I thought I wanted to think about that, and of course, what is between them is this interwar period of Les Six. And indeed, you could include in that group Stravinsky, who was living in Paris at the time, Picasso, Jean Cocteau. There's a certain kind of vibe that was going on in France. Of course, France had suffered terribly during the First World War, so many millions of people killed and displaced. And the answer to that, of course, was a sense of the tragic, but it was also, let's have a party. What can you do when everything's been lost? And I think there was a lot of fun going on in the 1920s. There was jazz, there were things like the Charleston, a lot of things coming over from America, of course, a lot of influences. So I wanted to take something of that, something of the world of the clown, the world of the theatre. But it's not a comical piece, because it's the clown's humor, it's the melancholy. What was it that the world, we were about to enter into another world war, and we just come out of another one, but this period in between. So I took that inspiration, and particularly my favorite composer of those six, Francis Poulenc, I think is one of the great 20th century composers. So
Speaking of humor in music.
Speaking of humor, but also speaking of melancholy, even his most humorous things, there's always that sort of bitter twist to things. And I love the way he takes the harmony of Stravinsky, at least the neoclassic harmony of Stravinsky, and just softens it. It's like he says, let's have a little cream with this wonderful dish of fruit, or let's just add something, what about a piece of chocolate, So I feel there's that side of Poulenc. He's a composer I would love to have had dinner with. Stravinsky, well, who wouldn't want to meet Stravinsky? But I think it would be much more intimidating. I think Poulenc was more fun.
Agreed.
So those are some of the inspirations behind this. And the six rencontres, that's a pun, of course, les six rencontres, 6 movements. And there are 6 places in Paris where you might meet somebody. So we have the boulevard, we have the park, we have the hotel, we have the theatre, we have the church, and then finally we have the marketplace, when all of the ideas come together, and it's really like people tossing apples around and saying, what about this banana, and throwing it across. So there's a kind of, that is the movement with the fun in it, really.
So those are the 2 concerts you're performing with ATX Chamber Music and Jazz, and all the details can be found at kmfa.org.